Welcome to the Social Media Takeaway, episode number 1. I'm your host, Louise McDonald, and today I'm talking to Ross Brand. Ross is the author of 100 Live Streaming and Digital Media Predictions, volume number 4. And today we'll be talking about 7 digital marketing and live streaming themes to watch out for in 2024. Hi everyone, you're very welcome to the show. So today I am absolutely honored and delighted to welcome my good friend Ross Brand to join me on my first ever podcast show. Ross, you're so welcome to the show.
Thank you, Louise. I am so honored to be your first guest. That is such a huge honor. You have such a great presence on social media, so many fans and followers. So it's a huge honor to be your first guest on the podcast, and I wish you all the best with it.
Oh, thanks so much, Ross. And we go back such a long way.
Yeah.
Ross interviewed me when I brought out my first book. I brought out my first book in 2017. So that's how long ago it was. And as he shows the book, woohoo! And I remember, I don't know where you were based at the time, Ross, but I think the interview was like 2 a.m. my time. Was it something like that?
Yeah, I'm in the New York area in the United States. So it was I think it was an 8 to 9 o'clock show, my time.
Anyhow, it all worked out really well. And we've been great friends ever since. And we bumped into each other a few years ago in the Web Summit as well. Do you remember that?
Yeah. That's where you gave me a copy of the book and we did an interview and it was a lot of fun. It was a great event.
It was a great event. It was a great event. Well, thank you again for being the first guest on my podcast. So I'll just give everybody a little introduction to Ross so they know who he is, because I know who he is. Ross Brand is the connection between brands, early stage startups, and customers through the power of live video. He served as an on-air personality, brand ambassador, and consultant for industry brands such as StreamYard, BeLive, LiveView, and Wirecast. Ross was instrumental in the rapid growth and adoption of StreamYard through his shows and network of digital influencers. Switcher Studio selected him as one of the 5 live video experts to follow, and Clout named him as the world's #1 live streaming expert on social media. Wow. Ross is the author and founder of the 100 Predictions franchise. His book series, 100 Live Streaming and Digital Media Predictions, reached #1 in Amazon as a bestseller in 6 countries and has won 25 book awards. Wow. He is also featured by NASDAQ TV, Forbes, on Psychology Today. That is some bio. Wow. Well done, you, Ross. You're doing so well.
Thank you. You read it beautifully. I could use that as my introduction. Next time I'm on a show, I just play that, and I don't have to. I don't have to run through it. So thank you.
No problem at all. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey?
Sure. So when I was a youngster, in my early to mid 20s, I was writing for newspapers, and I thought, boy, it'd be a lot more fun to talk than to write. So I decided I wanted to get into radio, and I ended up spending the next 12 years as a sportscaster and anchor and reporter, and even doing some play-by-play. And so I did that for 12 years. Then I moved on to other things, and in 2015, I stumbled into a platform called Blab that I had no idea what I was getting into, and all of a sudden I looked around and it's like, I'm in talk radio heaven, but with webcams. And I totally just fell in love with broadcasting, and of course this case it's online, but it felt a lot like the early days when I was doing radio on a college station and I could do what I wanted to rather than fit somebody else's format in their program. And I just was really enjoying watching all these different people doing their shows and talking about their businesses and giving advice and coaching people. And it was a lot of fun. And I said, I want to cover this. Like, I want live stream. I created Live Stream Universe. And the idea was I was going to shine a light on what other people are doing. And I did do that over the years, and I feel I do that with the predictions and stuff. But after about a month or so, I was like, I gotta try hosting this. I wasn't gonna host, but I was like, Okay, I could justify hosting because it would promote the website. Okay, so then I started hosting. Obviously, once I did that, it really took off. I fell in love with hosting again, and I've done a few shows. I've done a few shows since then, and then I started the predictions pretty soon after. I founded Livestream Universe. It was a time where people were wondering, is this going to last? Is Facebook Live going to kill Blab and Periscope? So there's a lot of talk about that, and I said, I'm connecting with all these interesting people. Let's get their thoughts down, and it'll be a good thing to discuss. And I knew it was something that could grow, although between the first year and the second year, I was like, I'm never doing this again. But then I did, and when the pandemic came along, now all of a sudden I have people who are like never had any interest in being on camera, on mic, on using any of these tools. Now the whole world was forced into using it. And that's when I thought, what if I try putting this as a book? Like, let's see, perhaps this can be helpful to people beyond the industry people. And obviously it took off, and it did really well. And so we're approaching the fourth one. You, as a contributor to all four books, I think you've been part of the predictions probably since 2018, if we connected in 2017. So that's a lot of years in a row that you've been a huge part of it. And we even have a quote from you that is in the front of the book that sort of sets the tone. So,
Camille, before we get talking about the book, can I just ask you, like, so you've been in the whole live streaming on social media since probably the beginning,
right?
Like, how have you seen that evolve, and what do you think are kind of what can people expect from live streaming in the year to come?
It's interesting. I got in 2015. So there are people who were doing it before me with Google Hangouts on Air and some of the other early technology. But when I first started, if it wasn't for a platform like Blab that made it easy to just press a button, your webcam goes on, and you step in, basically the people who could do it were people who had the gear and they had the tech knowledge. So a lot of people came from tech. Once it became easy to do it, then social media people jumped in. My differentiators, I came from broadcasting. A lot of people with broadcasting, their ego's very involved in having the call letters next to their names. So for them, doing online stuff was sort of like the minor leagues. But I had been out of it for so long that I just approached it as a new industry, a new thing. And we're seeing now that there are celebrities and big media people who are doing video podcasts on YouTube and have audiences and are making money beyond what they ever made, in network TV or cable TV and so forth. And every celebrity has a podcast. So, at the time I jumped in, some of my colleagues, I'm sure from broadcasting, probably looked at me and like, what is he doing on the internet? Now they're like, God, I wish I could be doing that instead of, dancing for the man or whatever. But I think what's changed is over the early years, these features were new, like when Facebook adopted it and some of the other platforms, and they wanted to see what it was all about. They thought it could take off, and they shared your content to a lot of people. If you went on Facebook and you were connected to people who were in social media and live streaming, it was like ping, ping, ping. Louise just went live. Ross just went live. This, right? Now you go on Facebook and you don't get those notifications. Even in my group, which is a group about live streaming, the reach is not everybody gets notified if I were to go live in my group. So organic reach is much tougher to come by. It requires not only bringing your audience, but finding other ways to communicate with them, to let them know what you're doing, and really distributing, like you're distributing this as a podcast, you're distributing it as a video, you're going to share it in a newsletter. You have to have all those different pieces because you can't rely on the platforms anymore to just put your content in front of a massive network, and then by default a certain percentage show up and you've got a big live audience. So I think that's the toughest thing right now is how do you stand out? How do you connect? Do you build community versus, the old way was sort of like I try and get a lot of people to watch, and then when I realize there's a good size audience, then I think about, let me start a Facebook group, or let me do a newsletter, or let me build. Now I think when I'm advising somebody, I say start community. Think about community before you do your first episode, because it's better to have 10 engaged people hanging out in a community who might buy something, who support you, who want to communicate with you, who will communicate with each other, than it is to have 1,000 people who are stopping in and dropping out, but are really, you have no way to engage with them or bring them into the fold of what you're doing. So I think that's the biggest change. You really have to have a whole ecosystem based around your content now.
Exactly. Like, so I still think it's pretty amazing though, like at the concept that you can buy a webcam, like, or you just have your phone, your phone has that capability, and that you can go live, and that you can potentially reach so many people. But you're right, Ross. The days of turning up and having thousands and thousands and thousands of people watching are gone, and you have to work much harder to create, as you said, a community. Or what I would normally tend to do is I would have, if this show is going to be going out in my private group, so I'll be emailing my list saying, hey, do you want to check out the interview in my private group? And so I'm going to be dropping it at this time and this, so people know when to tune in. So a little bit back to the book. So tell us how. So you invite experts to send you their predictions for the year ahead in terms of live streaming and digital marketing.
Yes. So every year, it's we say 100, right? That's a magic number. This year, it's actually 113, but the minimum is 100.
Lucky for some. For some.
And this year is the best. I mean, this year's predictions, and I'm not saying that to try and sell this book. It's just people are getting it. Like, you have a chapter, and you can really put some thought into conceptualizing more than just, I think X, Y, and Z is going to happen. And you're getting more and more of people sharing their thought process, their insights, their strategies. There's a lot more than predictions in the book now. It's like some of these entries are really like roadmaps for how to work in a specific niche in the digital world.
Fantastic. Yeah. I actually think though that in terms of, because I know when I was writing my prediction for the book, and I sat down and I was, I had to kind of think about it for a while, and I think that where we are, like we're coming into 2024, we're like 2 years or 3 years past COVID now. I still don't know the timeline of COVID because we lost so many years, but like we had the time where we were all locked down, and as you said, everybody wanted to know how to live stream and be on social and learn and do online courses, and all of that went crazy, right? And then I think the year after that, nobody wanted to be online, and it was kind of nearly the opposite. And then I think 2023 was kind of a year where we were coming out of it. Now, 2023 was a difficult year for many, many businesses. There was a lot of it was a difficult trading year, I think, all around the world. And I think because of that, when we look towards 2024, people maybe had a bit more clarity in their predictions. And I'm not surprised that you say that this year's book is probably the best yet. And I'm really looking forward to checking it out. So tell us, like at a top level, what can we expect, or what's coming down the line?
Well, if this were the first book and not the fourth book, the title would be 100 AI and digital media predictions, because I've got to say that at least 60 or 70%, I think, of the predictions touch on some aspect of AI. There, I don't know that I would have called it that, because it's not really just about AI. It's about how AI integrates with live streaming, podcasting, YouTube, blogging, newsletters, email marketing, the whole panoply of things that you do when you have an online business. But yeah, that's if you want to have a theme for 2024. If 2023 was sort of like there's this chat GPT thing out there, and some early adopters are playing around with it and they ask it questions and it can do a little bit of work for you. Now it's getting serious. Like, how can this enhance my productivity? How can I use it to focus more time on creating and less time on the fundamentals of managing my business? Can it speed the time of market of getting my newsletter out? Can it help with show notes and transcriptions? Where can this come in where I can still be me and bring my personality, my knowledge, my expertise to the content I'm creating, but everything else gets sped up and the productivity is there? And I don't know how many people discuss this, or if anybody discussed this, but I also think that, Karen Glasser mentioned the leveling effect that it could help solo creators and small businesses compete with larger media organizations. The disadvantage that the solo creator has and the small channels and so forth is they don't have the teams to put out the volume of content that big media does. So big media, it's easier for you to become addicted to the bigger players' content because it's always going to be in front of you, and it's always in front of you, so you're more likely to watch it. It's a self-feeding algorithm. So how can I, as a person who has a time only to record, let's say, one video a week or one podcast episode, how can I perhaps use AI to turn that into something that feeds the machine on a daily basis on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, to where now I become somebody's viewing habit, or I'm able to churn out even original content several days in a row by just not having to spend as much time on all the other aspects of it.
Yeah, so AI, I can imagine, is just front and central in 2024, and it absolutely is. And yeah, you're right. It's like it really speeds up the rate of productivity. I think my prediction also talks about AI, but in my prediction, I talked about the importance of authenticity. So yes, by all means, embrace all the new tools. They are wonderful. They will increase productivity, absolutely. But you can't lose yourself to AI, because one of the things I would always be very passionate about, especially if you're a coach, consultant, an online entrepreneur, it's so important, like, that your face is out there. It's so important that your voice is out there. And if you lose yourself to AI, if you just start creating reams and reams and reams of content that's not really you, it's going to be counterproductive. So yeah, I think AI is a huge opportunity. I also that there's a challenge there to use it, but to also to be authentic to yourself and to your brand voice and to your brand.
Are you using it in your business?
Yeah, I use it. I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's fantastic. Like, but one of my favorite prompt for ChatGPT, if I'm honest, is check syntax and grammar. So I still write my own stuff. I don't want ChatGPT to write anything for me. I still write my own stuff, but I'll get it, so you probably see my written English is much better than it used to be, because it's all in the same tense. So I have this wonderful habit of skipping tenses and just mixing them all up. So it checks that for me. Or like, you know yourself, Ross, like when you're live streaming, or as we're recording this now, we can download the transcript and we can say, please send me the main points. Now, like that, I'll still take that and I'll rework it the way I want it, to put it out there. But as you said, it just speeds everything up. So
but not having to start at a blank sheet and having some ideas and some things. And, if that summary, if those points aren't where we want them to be, we still can then bring ourselves and our knowledge and our specific experiences, and we can clean it up quickly. Editing quickly is now the skill more so than can I generate on a blank page. Although when it came to writing the book, I used AI for 4 pages, and that's the glossary. I put a glossary in for the first time because there's all these AI and new companies and stuff, and I'm not sure that the average reader, including myself, I didn't know all of them and what they mean exactly. So I asked ChatGPT and Bard for definitions, and I used that. But that's 4 pages out of 286. The way I use the rest of it is, do you put a comma here or not? What do you think? Should there be a comma in the sentence? And I love the way ChatGPT gives me the argument for, like, you could, here's why you could use a comma, here's why you wouldn't, whatever. And I say, well, this is what I'm thinking. And then it comes back with why that's, I mean, it's because these things aren't all black and white, and it's very interesting. Like, I feel like I've learned a lot about grammar and things that I do that I didn't even realize. Okay, this is correct, but why am I doing it? Or, does it work here or whatever? I don't know. It's really interesting. I mean, even with terms and words and things, is this word appropriate for the sentence or, whatever? And I think I enjoyed it more than I should have, but I really enjoyed the process of editing, the book and writing my introduction and all that. But I didn't take anything and put it in ChatGPT for this one, at least, and say, rewrite this as, a live streaming expert with, I don't know, YouTube channel and a weekly show. I didn't do any of that stuff. Yeah, I took people's predictions and basically kept it as close as I could to what they did. I wrote about 3 versions of my introduction and then put it together best way I could, and that's kind of how I did the book. But the glossary is all from ChatGPT and Bard. I just asked, can I get a 1-sentence definition of this term or whatever for a general reader in a book glossary or whatever, and yeah, and then I acknowledge it right at the top.
Yeah, I've had some fun with ChatGPT where I ask it to check syntax and grammar, and then it comes back and it goes, "Your sentence is mostly correct."
Yes, very polite.
And I'm like, "Thank you."
Don't you feel like you have to say thank you and like, this is a tremendous help and all this stuff like you're talking to a person because it's so polite? And
it is, but I laugh. You probably just hear me laugh. You'll hear me from the office laughing while I'm having those. You're mostly correct. Oh, thank you very much. So, so AI front and central for 2024. So with 60% of the predictions touching on AI, that has to be absolutely number one. Okay, so where are we going after that then, Ross?
Okay, so in my introduction, I have a subhead or a paragraph. Between the paragraph breaks, I have micro is the new macro. So, like we were talking about with community, there seems to be a bigger push now to have local events, regional events, virtual, but not 3-4 days, 2-hour events, meetups. Brands are looking for other ways to connect with audiences. There's more interest in micro influencers than some of the big players because of the personal relationship they have with their audience. Micro content for education. Rather than somebody sitting through a 2-hour webinar or a 3-hour live stream. Here's 5 minutes of what you need to know on this. Here's 5 minutes of that. And then maybe we have an in-person training in the office or something along that line. So it's realizing this is how people are now consuming content and experiencing things. And I think it's a change, and it's going to be a huge change in the events industry. But it's also a change in content. And one of the predictions, John Burke, who's spent much of the last decade or two involved with kind of the lines between TV and digital, said coming to probably streaming channels and perhaps TV as well are episodic short form content, like, you know, TikTok, a TikTok series. People, we talked about this on my show the other day, actually. There's a TikTok series of people who are taking a 9-month cruise, and every day they're putting out content from it. And then there's all these people who are following it and reporting on it and making content about it. And so it's the same concept as a half an hour or hour soap opera or whatever, but it's in 30-second and 1 minute bites, and it works. And there's perhaps TV will say that's more interesting at some point than long form content. Although I also think, even though micro is the new macro, there is a place for long form content, particularly now that YouTube has embraced video podcasting. You're also going to see more shows and more talented people doing things like what we're doing here, which is an open, expansive conversation rather than sound bites and short form. So I think there's a place for both in the market right now. But that's kind of partly my thought, and it's partly coming from the predictions.
Yeah, I always think that like episodic short form content, is absolutely. I think people are time poor, and I think, and this is a good one as well. Like if somebody doesn't know you, if somebody doesn't know you and you pop up in their news feed, they're much more likely to watch 30 seconds to a minute than they are an hour. So your episodic or your short form content is a great way to reach new people and so that they want to eventually consume your longer form content. That's what I would think. Yeah, but yeah, I know myself, even if I'm doing a training course and I go on, the first thing I do, if I'm very honest, is I check how long the video is. And so I'm like, 20 minutes. And if it's short, I'm delighted. 20 minutes, I'm happy. If it's 40 minutes, I try and watch it on double time. So my ears are nearly burning trying to listen quickly. But so I love that. So micro is the new macro. So, okay. So anyone tuning in here, think about your short form content. Think about episodic. So even if it's video, keep it short form, I think for your colder audience. If let's say it's even a newsletter, like even if it's like a LinkedIn newsletter, you could do, series 1 of 3. And so, you get them to read the first one, and then they're so interested, they definitely subscribe because they don't want to miss the next 2.
And the next one I'm going to talk about.
Exactly. And then even on the third one, if you say this is the 3 of 3 and they like it, they're going to go back and look for the other 2. So I love that form. So the episodic, and you do see a lot of TikToks like that where, it's and reels, it's 1 of 3 or 1 of 4 and you follow them.
I think, Louise, that you're doing your audience a favor by doing that in a way, because there's such a volume of content out there that, like, if I can pin it down to these are my 5 people that I check out every day or whatever, that makes my life easier. It makes it easier if I get addicted to somebody's content, because then I don't have to spend time scrolling and searching and all that. The challenge is for a lot of people, myself included, is doing short form content hasn't been the natural way that I've, if I've done short form content, it's been more formal, like a news report kind of style than, so you have to get used to that. And I think that's, for me, for 2024, it's, can I give a piece of wisdom or make somebody laugh or tell an interesting story in 10 seconds or 15 seconds or 30 seconds. I mean, maybe there's no beginning and end either, because, rather than thanks for watching, it's sort of like just natural. They should want to flow into the next one and the next one.
But I also think that's where your AI tools come back into it. So even if you're recording your longer form video or live streaming, that you can then go back and use your AI tools to take out the shorter form, whether it's written content or video content. So I think it all feeds in. And I love the whole focus about local and regional events. And that's definitely a post-COVID thing, because people still want to get out and meet people in person. Like I'm online, like more than you, Ross. I live online. I'm online all day, every day, speaking to people in every corner of the world, and I love it. And I never want to change, and I never want to go back to before before COVID, where I traveled a lot more. But I do have it in my diary. Get up, Louise, get out, and go to events and meet people in real people. So that's, I think, where the local and regional events are coming from. I definitely think that's a post-COVID thing, where people are kind of, if maybe they're working from home a little bit more, but they're intentional about meeting people in the real world.
I agree. It's a need that we have, and it's fun.
It is fun too, yeah. So micro is the new macro. And then what's the next big prediction you have?
Well, I don't know if this is a prediction or it's just kind of my thought, which is, again, where is everybody? How do you find that audience? Because the platforms aren't going to do it for you. YouTube might be the one, if you optimize it right, and if you SEO it well, and if you're very intentional about your titles and thumbnails and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still got to be, when they click, there's got to be content that people relate to, and there's got to be some sort of community mechanism, some sort of email. I think that's the challenge, because it used to be, if you were good, you were entertaining, you were informative, you couldn't help but grow an audience. And that isn't the case on Facebook and LinkedIn and X right now, because on some of the platforms like X, a lot of people are automating their stuff, and they're not hanging out there in Twitter chats like they were 7 years ago or whatever. But I think on the other platforms, they're not sharing it out like videos and things like they used to. You have to get that momentum, and that may be volume, it may be short form and frequent, it may be like I say, through building a community, building a powerful email list. We're all going to be working through that, right? If we're creating audio and video content on social platforms, how do we get value from it? And part of it is saying, maybe just saying, it really doesn't matter how many people watch the actual video or live stream or listen to the podcast, because that content can be repurposed in so many different ways. The great thing about what we're doing here is, after 45 minutes, we have 45 minutes worth of content, right? We're doing basically live to tape style. So we've got all this you've got all this content now that you can repurpose, that you can use, from blog posts to email news. Like, you've got to kind of have all these different touch points with people. It's not to say that you want to be the jack of all trades and do everything, but you've got to realize that promoting on social media and then people show up is not the way to build the big audience today, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, so I'm going to take this, as you said, this recording, and I'm going to make a poll on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and then I'm going to have a teaser, and then I'm going to drop the show live in my group, and then I'm going to take the transcript and make like a blog post or a newsletter from it. So there I have 5 pieces of content that's very relevant right now, but who's not to say that I couldn't drop that content again in 2 months' time and just focus in on maybe one aspect of it. You could break the content into, talk about AI specifically, talk about macros, and so many different ways you can repurpose that content. And I think one of the things that I would recommend to anyone listening in or watching is that don't be rushing on to the new shiny bit of content all the time. Like, think how much that you can repurpose the same piece of content as much as possible, so that you get value from it. Because if you're a small business, even if you have a team of people working for you, it takes a lot of time to create content and to publish content. So as much as you can, repurpose. And I think that's a really, really strong message from the book, Ross, which is absolutely amazing. So the top 3 themes, I suppose, we've discussed today that are all in the book is, number 1, AI, number 2, the micro is the new macro, I love that. And that the third big theme is
Distribution, repurposing,
and yeah,
being out there, being out
exactly.
there, not necessarily forcing yourself to create more content from scratch, but finding ways to make the most of your content. And, as you mentioned, really is so important is, can you leverage the AI tools now? Can you use something like an Opus Clips to quickly get 10 short form videos right from a talking head video? Can you put that transcript in ChatGPT and get a quick summary that you can then shape into a blog post? But also you take that blog post, you can read a paragraph of it as part of a short form video. You can pull the audio. There's so many things that you talked about that I think anybody can think of who's active online can think of 5 things they could do pretty easily. You got to carve out some time, but it's not as much time as it used to be to get their stuff in front of more people. And it's an interesting time with these tools. The other thing I want to mention related to all of this is that's a theme throughout is I think me, the person is more important than ever. The more tools get democratized, right? The more we all are able to buy a webcam and we all have a smartphone and we all have ChatGPT and we all have Bard and, we all have transcription ability and all that. Now it comes down to, can I connect to an audience or not? What makes me different from the next person? And it isn't the video camera, it isn't the microphone, it isn't, and it certainly isn't, the ability to churn out all this stuff from ChatGPT. Is there something that comes when I talk to you or you read my work or whatever? Is there something that's worthwhile? And I think you have to double down on yourself now, right? You have to realize what's unique about you, what are you good at, and how does an audience relate to you. And I don't think we had to be as intentional about that when we were all getting notified about each other's content, and it was very easy to be there for people and get the algorithm moving just by showing up and commenting and sharing. And with that not being the case anymore, and with so many people putting general content that comes from AI sources, how do you stand out? What is it about you that makes somebody want to come back again and again and again? And I don't know that there's any easy formula for that, but that's what everybody's got to ask themselves. What am I good at? What do I like doing? And what is there a market for? And hopefully at least 2 of those 3 things, if not 3 of 3 things, can coalesce somewhere. Now you've got a reason that people need to watch you.
Yeah, I love that, Ross. It's so true. Yeah. So it really comes back to the individual.
It
And
does.
you are what's unique about your business. If you're the face of the business, you got to be front and central. You got to be authentic. You got to be there. You got to share your voice, and people will connect with you. And the more they connect with you, and the more they know, like, and trust you, the more likely they are to reach out to you. So, yeah, no, so really, really great takeaways there. So tell us about this book. When is it? Where is it available?
So it'll be available on Amazon. It'll be in ebook and paperback, and perhaps for the first time I'm going to do a hardcover as well. But when it launches, we're definitely launching with ebook and paperback and maybe hardcover. And there'll be a discount for launch day. So if you're around launch day or maybe the day after too, maybe I'll keep it for a couple of days. It'll be 99 cents for the ebook. So, and it's normally, I think, $6.99 US. So, that's if you've never looked at a book before that I've done or that, Louise and all these great people have contributed to, take advantage of that and take a look at the ebook. And, if you like that, then the paperback has a bit more images and a little bit more to it. But, the actual content from the contributors and from me and everything else is the same other than the images. So is a pretty good deal. I think I'm biased, but yeah, that's when it drops. It'll be 99 cents when it does. So.
Well, I think that'll be the best 99 cents that you will spend in 20. That's my prediction. It's the best 99 cents you'll spend in 2024. And for the 4-page glossary alone, which I am dying to read through, I just think in terms of something that you can dip in and out of, something that that you can use to really help focus yourself and improve your performance on social media. You have over 100 experts who are doing this week in, week out, who are training on it, coaching on it, and they've given their predictions and their advice. What a wonderful concept, Ross Brand. So congratulations to you. And this is the 4th volume. So, and I know that takes a lot of work. In number 1 in 6 countries on Amazon, which is phenomenal, I must say, because I've got to number 1 in 1 country. I've never got to number 1 in 6 countries. And not only that, 25 book awards, which is absolutely amazing as well. So, I don't think I need to tell anybody any more. Like the statistics speak for themselves, so the track record speaks for themselves. So congratulations, Ross, on another amazing publication. The very best of luck to you with the launch date, which is the 17th of January, 2024. So if you're watching this on my group and today is the 17th of January, you need to buy the book today, because this is when you're going to get it for the discount. If you happen to be tuning in a little after this or at some stage throughout the year, it's still really good value. So make sure you pick up a copy.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be on the first podcast, and you have such a loyal and enthusiastic and smart audience. I love the people who follow you, and it's just such an honor to be a part of your first podcast. So thank you.
Ross, always an honor. And we must organize to bump into each other again at some stage. Yeah.
You got to come to the States for a conference, or just to enjoy getting away.
I think I'm on the wrong coast this year, but I will make it my business to be in New York at some stage and to meet with you. So thank you.
Congratulations on speaking. You're speaking at Social Media Marketing World, right?
No, I'm not. I'm just going.
Okay.
I'm just going. I'm actually looking forward to not having to speak. I just want to go and consume and network and learn. So we never stop learning, and
right.
that's how we can, be the best coaches and trainers for our own businesses. Is you have to keep learning. So right. I actually can't wait to go. I can't wait to fill my head full of new ideas.
That's great. I hope we see each other. Florida's nice too this time of year. Podfest every January is a great independent creator event. Lots of great events. So hopefully we'll cross paths.
Hopefully. Well, look, thanks again, Ross, and I look forward to meeting you throughout 2024, and best of luck with the book launch.
Thank you so much, Louise.
No problem. Thanks for listening to the Social Media Takeaway podcast. If you loved this episode and want deeper support with your marketing, head over to sellonsocialmedia.academy/hello.